Hi, I'm Ellen Anderson. This is my discussion post 7 on December 3rd, 2021 on the micturition or urination reflex. We depend on micturition, urination, to eliminate organic waste products, which are produced as a result of cell metabolism in the body. The urinary system also regulates the concentrations of sodium, potassium, chloride, and other ions in the body, in the blood, as well as helping to maintain normal blood pH, blood pressure, and blood volume. There are two kidneys, which are bean-shaped and make approximately 30 milliliters or more of urine every hour through glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption, tubular secretion, and water conservation. The final composition of urine is the result of filtration, absorption, and secretion by the nephrons. The kidneys produce, on average, 1.5 liters of urine each day. This is mostly composed of water and is straw-colored. Urea, uric acid, creatinine, sodium chloride, and potassium ions are all normal constituents of urine. Blood, ketones, and glucose are not, and their presence may indicate disease. Urine passes from the kidneys to the bladder through the ureters, where it is stored until it is eliminated via the urethra. Urine is moved along the ureters to the bladder by peristaltic contraction and gravity. The ureters are muscular tubes about 30 centimeters long. The bladder is a hollow muscular sac which sits in the pelvis. The bladder stores urine and is held in position by the peritoneum surrounding it, though only its top surface lies within the peritoneum, and by strong umbilical ligaments. The bladder is lined by mucosa. This is particularly thick in the area around the ureter openings and the junction with the urethra, where the mucosa acts as a funnel to channel urine into the urethra when the bladder contracts. During micturition, strong muscles in the bladder walls, the detrusor muscles, compress the bladder, pushing its contents into the urethra. The opening, described as the neck of the bladder, between the bladder and the urethra, is closed by two rings of muscle, the internal and external sphincters. The internal sphincter contains smooth muscle fibers, and the normal muscle tone of these fibers keeps it contracted. It is therefore not under voluntary control. The external sphincter is formed of a circular band of skeletal muscle, which is supplied by the pudendal nerve and is under voluntary control. These fibers remain contracted as a result of central nervous system stimulation, except during micturition when they relax. The urethra leaves the bladder at its most inferior point and extends from there to the outside of the body. In women, this exits near the anterior wall of the vagina and is 3 to 5 centimeters long. Because the urethra is short and exits so close to the anus, women are particularly prone to urinary tract infections. In men, the urethra extends to the tip of the penis, a total distance of up to 20 centimeters. Micturition. At its most basic level, micturition is a simple reflex which is displayed by infants who are not toilet trained. When the volume of urine in the bladder reaches about 250 milliliters, stretch receptors in the bladder walls are stimulated and excite sensory parasympathetic fibers, which relay information to the sacral area of the spine. This information is integrated in the spine and relayed to two different sets of neurons. Parasympathetic motor neurons are excited and act to contract the detrusor muscles in the bladder, so that bladder pressure increases and the internal sphincter opens. At the same time, somatic motor neurons supply the external sphincter via the pudendal nerve are inhibited. allowing the external sphincter to open and urine to flow out, assisted by gravity. Children and adults have considerable control over when and where they pass urine. They can also increase or decrease the rate of flow and even stop and start again. So micturition is clearly more than just a simple reflex. This control is learnt in infancy and involves other sensory fibers in the bladder wall. These fibers convey information on the degree of bladder fullness via the spine to the higher centers of the brain, the thalamus and the cerebral cortex. This causes us to become aware that we need to pass urine and of the urgency of the situation. These links between the spine and cerebral cortex are not established until about 2 years of age, and it is suggested that toilet training is therefore not physiologically possible until that time. The brain is able to override the micturition reflex by inhibiting the parasympathetic motor nerve fibers to the bladder and reinforcing contraction of the external sphincter. The internal sphincter will not open until the external sphincter does. The increase in bladder volume increases stretch receptor and nerve activity, making the sensation of pressure more acute. When it is convenient, the brain centers remove the inhibition and permit micturition under our conscious control. When the bladder contains about 500 milliliters, pressure may force open the internal sphincter. This in turn forces open the external sphincter, and urination occurs whether it is convenient or not. We can increase the rate of urine flow by contraction of the abdominal muscles and by the performance of Valsalva's maneuver, forced expiration against a closed glottis. Contraction of the strong pelvic floor muscles can stop urine in mid-flow. After micturition, less than 10 milliliters of urine remains in the bladder, and the cycle begins again. Micturition requires the coordinated activity of sympathetic, parasympathetic, and somatic nerves. It also requires normal muscle tone and freedom from physical obstruction and physiological inhibition. Control from our higher brain centers allows us to determine the right time and place to allow this important physiological function to occur. Thank you.